If you've ever visited Southern California, you have no doubt visited Laguna Beach. The picturesque rocky coves and beaches in Laguna is a mecca for tourists and artists, and has been for nearly a century and a half. And believe it or not, the birth of Laguna Beach has everything to do with westward expansion following the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln's Homestead Act of 1862. After traveling all day, the family finally arrived at Aliso Creek. As they moved inland along Aliso Creek, Salter's small cabin appeared a short distance ahead. As George's son, Joe Thurston, writes in his book titled Laguna Beach of Early Days, "When we first arrived, we had one room and a tent. Finally, Father got lumber and built a room at the end of the tent. When the tent finally gave out, the space was also enclosed. The partition was removed, and this room, together with the old cabin, was used as a kitchen, dining room, living room, and a dance hall. When I was too young to know how the living was made for the first 2 years, I do know that we were all living at the end of that time, that we had another cow, a flock of chickens, and a few ducks. I was old enough, however, to feel the isolation of the place. There was no one living along the coast from Newport Beach to San Juan Valley, a distance of about 20 miles. One of Laguna's oldest remaining houses from the early days is this house, built by Thomas North Harper above the beach at Pearl Street. Check out those tents and the other structures. I wonder whose house that is in the distance there. That must be the old coast road winding into the distance. It looks like a horse and cart. I wonder who's at the reins of that cart. Chances are it's probably a Goff, Brooke, or Thurston family member. Here are some of the Harper clan, including Thomas, his wife Hannah, and 3 of their children. Not only was Thomas a skilled carpenter, but like most early pioneers, became a jack of all trades by necessity. Arch Rock can be seen behind them in the lower left corner. Now here is a photo of Andrew Wesley Thompson. In 1876, this Mormon preacher and elder and Civil War veteran arrived with his family in Laguna Canyon, bringing with him a tent, a wagon, and some farming equipment. He settled in this area he later called Spring Ranch because of the many springs on his property, and began raising cattle and growing grain like most of the other ranchos that still existed throughout Orange County. He, like many others, came west following the Civil War in search of land. Unlike many of the homesteaders, Mr. Thompson purchased the 172 acres outright, paying $1,500 cash. He also acquired 160 acres of government land, which gave him quite a large spread. In 1886, the Santa Ana Valley Land and Improvement Company purchased some of Goff Brothers' land and began advertising for a new 100-acre city they called Catalina on the Main. That same year, Hub Goff built his Arch Beach Hotel and a store on the bluff top at the end of today's Diamond Street. With no source of local lumber for the hotel's construction, a schooner anchored offshore floated in the needed redwood for construction of the hotel. I showed this photo before, but want to shout out to all of my former lifeguard friends that guarded the beaches around the Giggle Crack. God, I wonder how many early tourists may have drowned there, or broken their neck in the large shore break. Here is what Aliso Creek looked like at the turn of the century. As you can see, most of the area was farmed, and much of that was lima beans. That is no doubt a grove of trees planted by one of the Goff brothers as part of the Timber Culture Act of 1873, requiring homesteaders to plant 40 acres of trees for lumber and fuel. It was one of the most abused laws at the time. Oscar Warling and John Nicholas Ish ran the Palace Stables, built in 1895. This photo was probably taken around 1900. Warling also operated a stage line. As the times changed and automobiles began to increase in numbers, they evolved into an auto repair shop and service station. Here's what the stables looked like in 1912. Located on the corner of Forest Avenue and Coast Highway, it was the perfect place to accommodate travelers. Looks kind of like a slow day, but everything moved at a slower pace back in the day. Here is the Whirling Stage and Grocery Store, evidently a one-stop shop. Now in the photo, the driver of the stage was identified as William Brooks. Here is a photo of the short-lived Brooks Hotel built by William Brooks. It was also a grocery store, post office, and barber shop. Unfortunately, it met the fate of many old wooden buildings and burned down only 60 days after opening. They reported that the only thing saved from the fire was a ham, which was thrown out the store window. I found and blew up a photo of William Brooks driving the Laguna stagecoach at about the turn of the century. It appears that William had his hand in just about everything in the early days, as did most of the early pioneers. This is one of my favorite old photographs of the growing city of Laguna Beach, and there certainly is a lot to unpack in this photograph. Howard Heisler was an important real estate entrepreneur in the early days of Laguna, and he, along with L.C. McKnight, acquired most of the land which now comprises North Laguna from the Irvine Company and subdivided it in 1906 under the name Laguna Cliffs. This was the first tract in Laguna to have water directly piped to each lot, an important achievement for the growth of this sleepy little seaside village. You couldn't miss their banners as you entered town. The viability of any new city at this time hinged on the access to drinking water. Eventually, they would need a larger and more dependable water source, something they accomplished in 1927. But for now, this would fill the need. Laguna Beach's status as an art colony began in the late 1800s and is credited to artist Norman St. Clair. Shown here is plein air artist Frank Kuprian. As a leading member of the fledgling art colony, Kuprian became known as the Dean of Laguna Artists. Kuprian's studio, which he named the Viking, is located on a bluff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Laguna's place as a bona fide art colony was further solidified over the next 2 decades with the creation of the Laguna Beach Art Association and Art Museum, the formation of the Laguna Playhouse, and the Pageant of the Masters, which began in 1932.